Hey everyone, welcome to the 218th episode of the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and your co-host,
Kevin Toffel.
And we have an awesome show for you today. It's a little shorter than usual, but we're going to be talking about NVIDIA's new edge computing platform, Sony's new low-power wide-area network, another option for those of you looking for a smart home hub, and some updates on news from Amazon, Apple, and a new law that could use some smart things. Plus, we're going to have as our guest this week, Jérôme Graquel, who is the CEO of Eve, and he is actually going to give us a big update on all things HomeKit and a bit about Eve itself. And we'll also hear from our sponsor, Dell Technologies. So, let's kick this show off with a message from another one of our sponsors, Nordic Semiconductor. Are you planning to build a product using cellular IoT technology? Check out the NRF9160, the most advanced multi-mode cellular IoT device on the market today. It supports the two cellular standards for IoT applications, LTE-M and narrowband IoT. It also supports up to 15 LTE bands, making it a true globally compatible cellular IoT solution. It also has on-chip GPS, making it ideal for asset tracking and monitoring. Application power and security comes in the form of ARM's latest Cortex-M33 CPU, and ARM Trust Zone security and 1 megabyte of flash and 256 kilobytes of RAM. There are integrated RF front ends and adaptive power management on the SiP. The NRF9160 is your first consideration when designing cellular IoT products. Find out more at www.nordicsemi.com/9160. Okay, Kevin, let's kick this off with some industrial action. NVIDIA at Computex, which I can't believe Computex is still happening. It's crazy. So NVIDIA has this new EGX platform for machine learning at the edge. And this is not a surprise for me because NVIDIA has been selling their Jetson Nano processors, which are it's their smallest version of the processor. They've been selling cards that support this into the industrial IoT for a few years now. They actually just launched a machine learning support for that on a single stick, which is pretty cool. But I talked to lots of people who are using this in a server or on a dongle at the edge of their industrial network to manage, to understand and perform predictive modeling or to do computer vision. So these are all very popular use cases that are already happening today. So NVIDIA is basically saying, hey, we see you customers. We know you want this. So what we're doing is we're going to create this platform, and it's a set of software and drivers. It's going to run all the way across several of their chips. So it will include the Jetson Nano, and it will move all the way up to an itty bitty data center, a micro data center. So you could have a rack of NVIDIA T4 based servers that could do 10 trillion operations per second that are running this software. This is good news for anybody who's basically trying to do lots of machine learning at the edge and people who are trying to process a lot of data. And many of you guys might be like, why is this even necessary? But I still talk to people who are like, we are not putting our very valuable data up in the cloud. We don't want any of that being trained there. We don't want it being inferred there. We want none of it.
Yeah, I mean, NVIDIA has really been an amazing company to watch. I mean, obviously, they're probably best known for the GPU technologies that was pretty much, I guess, in gaming was where they started. But they have moved into the automobiles, now into other AI and ML with vision recognition and so on. And you can even do image recognition with that little Jetson Nano. It just uses a few watts of power, but that you mentioned the 10 trillion operations per second for the T4 servers. The little Nano on low power can do a 500 billion operations per second. And that kind of processing power at the edge, I mean, you need that when you're using it, say, for image recognition in a vehicle, that milliseconds or microseconds matter. You need to have that kind of processing power at the edge. So that's impressive.
And I will also say that it's 10,000 trillion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't actually know
T4,
what the number,
yeah.
10 yada trillion, 10, Don't know. Okay, so NVIDIA has also done a partnership for this, so its software will integrate in with Red Hat's OpenShift Kubernetes container orchestration platform. So that's important because a lot of people are running containers at the edge, and you want everything working all the way together. And NVIDIA is also working with tons of companies from Dell, which is a sponsor of the show, Cisco, HPE, Lenovo, all to bring out servers that are going to be EGX compatible. So,
right. And this EGX platform is, I don't know if it's part of or it's compatible with one of the two with their Edge Stack, NVIDIA Edge Stack, which can be tied in with AWS IoT Greengrass or Microsoft Azure IoT Edge. So you get device management as well with this.
What's odd is I don't see Google in there, but
I was going to say that, but I'll just not
maybe
say
those
more.
TPUs are making it uncomfortable. I don't know.
Well, interestingly, I mean, Google's got TensorFlow and its hardware partners, and it makes its own chips for that. And I don't think this works with TensorFlow, but I saw mention of some other Tensor quote unquote product. Tensor RT, that's it.
I'll tell you, Google is not in high demand among anyone I talk to right now on the
At the enterprise and yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day.
They're trying to change that, but it hasn't happened yet.
It's going to take a little bit. But they do have, they have Thomas Curry in there now, so it could happen.
Yes.
He's the former Oracle sales guy, so sales guy.
He's an Oracle. He was formerly an Oracle, I thought you were saying.
Yes, he was an Oracle. He lived in a cave.
I predict cloud computing will be big.
Oh, I don't think Oracle did that, actually. Okay.
No.
Cloud computing jokes aside, let's talk about Sony. They came out of nowhere with their own low-power wide area network, and they built a chip that basically will be optimized for it. This is basically what Sigfox did.
Right. I'm kind of blown away. Did I read this correctly, or is it a mistake? Transmission up to 60 miles?
Yeah, it can transform. That's what it says. 60 miles work in a noisy urban environments, objects moving at high speeds. This is different from some of the other options. So I'm actually going to reach out to Sony to try to get someone on the show to talk about this, because this is crazy. They're talking about finding this, using it to find people, using it to find things. It's going to transmit in the 920 megahertz band. And Sony calls it the Eltres, ELTRES network. That band, that's a long-range band. We have a lot in the US. We have 915 megahertz is where you see a lot of long-range wireless, but that's unlicensed. Mm-hmm. So again, a lot of questions here, mostly about
who's going to use it.
Who's going to use it? The technology is going to be in Japan. I was going to say with that, I was like, using that particular wireless spectrum means it couldn't be in the US, I wouldn't think, but it's too close to our unlicensed band. But Sony is going to try it in Japan, show it off, and they've got their special chip for it, and they launched an application program that interested companies can apply to try out the chip. So,
yeah, we'll have to see who actually does this and implements or tries to use it. You mentioned like tracking things and whatnot, so it's just cars or buses. They have a drone, location monitoring of a drone. I would love to like control a drone from like a half mile away. That would be pretty cool.
I don't know if you'd be able to control it. So
I don't think so.
Looking at the specs, its payload is 128 bits.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why they say location monitoring of a drone, not actual control of it, unfortunately for me. But home delivery tracking, automated external defibrillator, yacht race tracking, something I do all the time in my spare time, marine rescue, landslide reports. Things that take place further away than most other things.
Yeah, 60 miles is, if you want to do that, you're looking at NB-IoT. LoRaWAN, which is another low-power wide area network technology, that transmits at a small amount of data for about a mile. So that's your next longest. Or then you've got NB-IoT, which uses a cellular network, so there's just existing coverage already. This is really interesting. I'll see if we can't find someone to talk about it with us. All right, let's move from the industrial edge and the low-power wide area networks to the home.
People ask us all the time about hubs, traditional hubs for your smart home, ones that have not just Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, but maybe have Zigbee and or Z-Wave. And as I was looking around this weekend on the web, I saw TP-Link's Deco Mesh Network. It's no different than any other mesh product out there, such as Google Wi-Fi, Orbi, Velop, whatever, except the Deco M9 Plus doubles as a smart home hub with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and Zigbee. So no Z-Wave, but this is interesting. It's not necessarily new, but it's not something that I had seen before. So I'm thinking about trying to get a review unit because I mean, I'm happy with my Wink, but I don't know what's going to happen with it in the future. So what options do I have other than, say, SmartThings or Habitat and so on and so forth? So it's just another interesting option. And I love the fact that it's built into the mesh Wi-Fi system, just like you can do with Samsung they have an offering that does the same thing. So
well, this doesn't have Z-Wave. So this looks kind of like the Echo Plus.
That's a good point. And the Echo Plus isn't something that I've really looked at only because I don't have really a Madam A home that much anymore. So you're right. But the Echo Plus isn't like a mesh network system.
No, it is not. As a home hub,
yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, from what I can see here, it's kind of limited in what it supports, even though it has the 3 radios. TP-Link says roughly over 100 devices are supported.
Yeah,
so that's SmartThings has probably the most.
Yes, well, and it also has that additional Z-Wave radio. But the challenge with Zigbee, and I found this when I was playing with the Echo Plus, is sometimes you'll bring a device in and the network won't detect it. The software doesn't quite work together. It's just difficult.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the Echo Plus. The TP-Link Deco M9 Plus is compatible with Madam A and works with if this and that. It does not mention anything about Google Assistant.
Okay, so, I mean, I'm still surprised that with the Sonos integration for Google Assistant, you have to choose between one or the other. So I imagine that bifurcation is just going to get more and more clear to us in the world, right?
I think so. I mean, I don't really think people want multiple. They may want multiple options, but they don't want to use multiple smart assistants in the home.
I do. I use it on a daily basis, but I am a little weird. But this reminds me, Kevin, last week we forgot to share the big news from Google/Nest. So we should probably talk about it today, which is 2 weeks ago, the world was all aflutter because at Google I/O, Google said that Nest, it would basically kill API access to Nest devices. And all Nest integrations would then go through Google Home. Well, right after we recorded the podcast, the day after we recorded the podcast, Google had gotten so much pushback on that. They were like, haha, just kidding. So now, this we should have talked about last week. I apologize, you guys. But now what's going to happen is if you have a Nest device that is part of a supported integration right now, it will stay the way it is. So nothing will break. But if you want... Provided
you do not switch from a Nest account to a Google account.
Right. So you can't add anything and you can't change it. That's basically it. So it's kind of like, you remember the old unlimited data plans that were actually unlimited?
Oh, the grandfather people kept and still have, yes.
Yes, but you can't change anything. You must always pay your bill on time and everything must be perfect. This is that kind of thing. So if you want to be grandfathered into your existing Nest integrations and your home works just fine, then don't do anything. Don't do anything. Now, what Google says is eventually they're going to start launching new features through the Google Home Nest version of that. I don't even know what to call it.
Because they haven't named it yet, really.
Yeah, they're going forward with that. And so new features will come there and you may miss out. But, if you're happy with what you've got, I would say wait. Don't do anything.
With it.
And then if a new feature comes out that you're like, holy cow, I've got to have that. Recognize that you're going to trade that feature for basically reconstructing all those integrations that you already have, which may be worth it. Over time, it might become worth it. But
what this should do, not only is it better for everybody who has things that work with Nest today, this helps give more time to the third parties who do the integrations, because basically it was a complete surprise to all of them when Google announced this.
It was a complete surprise to most of them. So I talked to IFT and they were like, yeah, we knew about it for a couple months.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. So, so who knows? Some of my people were totally floored. Some of them were not.
Silly NDAs.
Silly. Wanted to give you guys an update on that because I felt terrible missing that last week or not remembering to talk about it.
It was just bad timing.
So let's talk about Madam A.
Yeah, this is nothing major, but I noticed on the Amazon Madam A blog that they are introducing announcements on Madam A built-in devices. So if you have a third-party device or you have implemented your own Amazon Voice Services implementation, maybe with a Raspberry Pi, you will be able to put the announcements feature in your device. So that's kind of cool. There's so many good third-party options, that work with Madam A and Google Home for that matter. But you always end up getting limited by what you can't do as much as the native.
Yeah, and I wish that, Amazon would be a little bit more clear about some of these things. So, like, I would love to have Guard on some of my other devices just to act as backup. So maybe there's an Amazon capable device in my house that's in another room, right?
Yeah.
And I would like for that to be Guard compatible, but so far it's not. So it's a little hit or miss.
It's actually quite common for both Amazon and Google to keep things on their own devices for a little while to help sell product and then eventually open it up. In fact, Google does it with their phones. The Pixel phones typically get these really cool whiz-bang features, and then 3-4 months later, they start filtering down to other hardware partners' devices. I know it sucks, but I get it.
It is the way of the world.
It is.
The way of the world. All right. So this is good news. 6 representatives in the U.S. House have announced legislation called the Hot Cars Act. And what this is, it's going to require automakers to offer safety alerts to prevent leaving kids in a back seat in their car seats unattended. So what happens is every year during the summer, especially in Texas where I live, stories will start popping up of a parent who has left their child unattended in the back seat of a car. And basically, what usually happens is the parent goes to work, they forgot, maybe they don't normally take the kid, they thought they dropped him off at daycare, they just get out of the car, they're on autopilot, they walk into work, and they come back and there's a dead kid. And it's terrible.
Terribly sad, yes.
So the idea is that this particular legislation, they want cars to alert drivers when there is a child left unattended in the back seat. And the representatives are basically saying, hey, we already do this if you leave your keys in the car, if you leave your door open, all of those things give you alerts. The reason why we're talking about it, one, is because it's, I don't know, as a parent and as someone who lives in one of these states where this happens, a dozen times each summer, this is a big issue and it's terrible. And I feel like there should be some sort of connected device that could help with this. And I've actually seen several companies come forth trying a solution for this, but none of them have actually come to market yet. And I'm very curious as to why.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a fixable problem. And before the show started talking about it, I'm like, people don't really do that. Come on, But then you pointed out that how many deaths there were in your state just last year alone with us. We don't have them here because Pennsylvania just isn't nearly as hot. Maybe we do have them, but I don't hear about them as much. You could probably jury-rig your own kind of thing with maybe a Bluetooth tracker or something, but you shouldn't be sticking things on your kids or the car seat, but this really is avoidable and we have the technology to do it probably on the cheap. So why the heck not?
There's companies that have smart fabric sensors. So if you put if you're a car seat manufacturer and you put a weighted sensor in someone's car seat, and that could tie to the parent's phone. Most people do have phones while they're driving in their car. That could be an easy, I shouldn't say easy option. There is a device called the eClip, and you clip that to your baby's car seat. And if you leave them in the car seat and the car stops moving, it basically starts beeping at you. And this is a $50 device. So that's one option there. And they did a Kickstarter fairly recently. They also have an accessory strap that you can use to strap the eClip to other things. I think these sorts of things are really important. I think if it's regulated and mandated, it'd be safer if it were part of the integrated car system, to be honest. Kind of like the latch system is in cars. So I would really like to see something like this because in the last 2 decades, 800 children have died Yes, that's 2 decades, but these are highly preventable and horrifying deaths.
Exactly. You can't put a price on somebody's life, especially an innocent child, an infant, or even, I mean, I would extend this to pets personally, because that's one thing we do hear about here in Pennsylvania is people leaving their pets in a hot car, and what a torturous thing to do. I mean, even if it's accidental, I mean, it's still horrendous for the animal.
That's a little bit of a downer topic, but
yeah,
we'll move on to something that may not be as much of a downer. Who knows? This may not be a great segue. Who knows? But WWDC, which is the Apple Worldwide Developer Conference, is coming up. When is it? Next week?
Oh, it is next week.
It is
next first week of June. Yes.
Yeah. So the first week of June, this will be out. And we're always hopeful for HomeKit news. We don't always get it.
For about the 5th year in a row, we're hopeful.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think it's only the 3rd year. Last year, there wasn't much. If there's HomeKit news, yay. The only other thing that's interesting is there's been some rumors about Apple launching a Tile-like device that would tie into the iPhone and help you find keys, wallets, whatever.
Kids. Who knows?
So it's a Bluetooth-based tracker is what they're possibly launching. You know, part of me is like, yay. But the other part of me is like, it kind of sucks because I'd really like something that's not just integrated into the Apple system, you know?
True, but there is a benefit here if the rumor pans out, because the rumor is that since it's a Bluetooth device, it would act like AirPods, and that pairing is managed through iCloud. And what that means is, like with AirPods, I can switch from one Mac to another, to an iPhone, whatever, and I don't have to repair the iPods because all that is handled on the cloud side. This would presumably work the same way. So your Bluetooth tracker is managed in iCloud, and as a result, unlike the Tiles of today and other Bluetooth trackers where you have to hope that somebody crowdsources, finds it.
Somebody else with a Tile or
somebody else with a Tile
device is running that on their is running that software on their phone.
Exactly. The difference here is, in theory, you would have the entire iOS population looking for your device passively. They'd never know it, but if they stumbled within range and their Bluetooth was on, iCloud would know, and the user of the lost item would get a notification. So it should handle privacy very well, and it should massively expand the base of people who are looking for, even though they don't know they're looking for, your lost item. Well,
in areas where Apple products are sold. And they're sold all over the place, but there's definitely parts of the world where there are lower concentrations of iPhones.
True.
But those places probably don't have a lot of Tiles either. So, the other thing is Tile has been working very hard on a partnership program. So you can buy like Land Rovers and pens and umbrellas that have integrated Tile technology, basically. It's not even a Tile. It's just a Bluetooth chip with their software running. And that might be an interesting business for Apple to get into, right? So putting a Bluetooth sensor inside every object and then having it run on this iOS kind of network. Suddenly you have just a huge array of trackable objects. And that's an interesting future. Although, again, I hate that it's a closed ecosystem future.
No, right there with you.
All right. Well, we'll hear more about Apple, actually, because our guest this week is Jerome Graquel, who is the CEO of Eve, and they are a popular sensor maker. They bet entirely on HomeKit. That's all Eve sells is HomeKit-based sensors and smart home products. So he's going to talk about kind of where he's at with that and his take on what Apple's been doing in the HomeKit ecosystem. But before that, we're going to hear from our IoT podcast, Hotline, which this month is brought to you by Schlage. Schlage's wide variety of smart locks lets you create the smart home of your dreams. Learn more about Schlage's smart home solutions and compatibility with Amazon and Apple products, Siri, Google Assistant, and more at schlage.com/IoT. Okay, so this week we have a voicemail from Dodie. I believe she's from Canada, and she is looking for smart home products. So let's hear it.
Oh, hi, Stacy. I'm calling from Prince Edward Island in Canada. My name is Dodie Crane, and I'm in the planning stages for a new house. My question is, in your opinion, what are the top 5 must-have smart home components that I should include in the design of my new place? Thanks a lot from Canada. Bye.
Oh man, Dodie, part of this. So I'm going to say like two of my top 5 probably depend on your use cases. So, but I will say, I think every house should have some sort of smart lighting that can connect out to other things. I chose Lutron in my house. So, that's just me. And I did that because the light switches are nice. I like having a smart switch. Philips has actually changed the game also with Lutron because they've launched a new device called the Aurora that attaches to existing switch and works with Philips Hue smart bulbs. But still, for most people, I would say just swap out all your light switches with Lutron light switches, get a Lutron hub, and then voila, you have smart lights.
So she's talking about new house design. Would you, because you just did this a couple of years back, you had a house built, would you strictly go with mesh Wi-Fi, which we both use today, or would you put in wired Ethernet ports pretty much everywhere as well?
Ooh, I love myself some wires. I would want mesh Wi-Fi, but I would put Ethernet in every room in the house. I did it last time. I don't regret it. If I wanted to skimp on Ethernet, I would put it where I knew I was going to have televisions, so I could at least wire in my televisions, and I would probably put Ethernet in the office.
Yeah.
So that's,
and obviously the time to do it is when Dodie's designing and building her new house. I mean, after the fact, it's hellacious to do.
And I would say when you're building a new house, get deeper than expected switch boxes because that'll help you with like your Lutron lights because they're smarter and they take up more of the switch box. So that's the lighting. We decided on you need high quality mesh Wi-Fi. I also think a Nest Hello doorbell, unless you're a diehard Madam A user, and then I would go with a Ring doorbell. But I think having a video doorbell is nice. Oh, you know what we didn't include? We didn't include door locks. That was,
we did not.
We were remiss. So yes, I would also include a keypad door lock. It doesn't have to be smart. I don't get a lot of value out of having a smart lock. Some people really like having it like a good night routine that will lock your door for you. So if that's important to you, but I do like having a keypad entry because then you don't have to carry keys. And that is a win.
Yeah, and some people do have routines for when they get home. They don't want to rely on geofencing. So they might tie lights or music or something to...
unlocking the door?
Preheating an oven. Absolutely.
Okay, well, there you go. Kevin just made another argument. And then I would say a smart thermostat. There's no reason not to put a smart thermostat on your wall.
Agreed.
And for that, we like Ecobee. Nest is fine. Again, depends on if you're, how do you feel about the Google ecosystem versus the Amazon ecosystem. But Ecobee plays well with both. Honeywell, I've tried their T5. They just launched the T9 and T10 thermostats. Those are nice. So those are some good options out there for you. And then,
I like my Ecobee because of the remote sensors. And I think other companies are adding them to their thermostats.
Honeywell is with their T9. And I think Nest you can buy a Nest remote sensor now too.
The reason I didn't, I think, is because Ecobee had them first and then I switched. So I went from Nest to Ecobee. Yeah.
And then finally, in your smart house, I threw in a security system. You could design a wired security system in your house, but gosh, that feels so retro. Does that feel retro to you, Kevin?
It does. I think security is, first of all, not everybody wants to spend the money to do it. And today you can really do a lot of it yourself with some strategic planning on where to put webcams, perhaps, or sound sensors or other sensors. So just think about where you might want to be monitoring things, certain doors, certain windows, certain rooms and areas. I think you can do it yourself. And there's some good options out there, packages. So.
Okay. I was going to recommend Abode or SimpliSafe if you're going to do it yourself. I guess those are my top 5. You may want, smart speakers throughout your house. Really depends on your use case. But
I would add one more thing that's not necessarily for smarts, but for convenience. I am getting such a thrill out of swapping out all of my electrical outlets, the old ones, with newer outlets that also include USB ports.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just for charging devices. A lot of smaller smart devices, even webcams and what, eventually or are running on like micro USB and whatnot. Just pop one in one of these outlets.
Yes, that is actually, when I'm doing my next home, that is going to be one of my first renovations is just take all those, maybe not all of them, but like in areas where, like my kitchen counter, I know that I'm going to charge stuff behind my bedside table.
Next to the beds. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Or where you might want to have, a webcam or something else that can run off USB.
Oh, that's brilliant. I didn't think about that.
I know. That's why I'm retrofitting all of mine.
Look at Kevin. So smart. All right. Well, Dodie, I hope that helps you, and good luck with your new home. All right. I think we've reached the end of this segment of the podcast, and I would love for you guys to stay tuned for Jerome Grackle talking about Eve sensors and the future of HomeKit. So stay tuned for that. And now, a word from our sponsor. Hey everyone, we are taking a quick break from the Internet of Things podcast for a message from our sponsor. This week's sponsor is Dell Technologies, and I have Ken Mills, the General Manager of Dell Technologies Industry, IoT, IoT Safety and Security, and Computer Vision. Ken, that is a lot of titles. So what is your business exactly?
Yeah, thanks, Stacy. Thanks for having me. We're excited to be here and sponsor this segment. Most people on the podcast probably know that video surveillance cameras have been the original IoT sensor and have been used for gathering video data at the edge for over 20 years. Those video sensors have become much more intelligent, much more capable, and are driving a lot more storage than they ever have before. This is requiring our customers to look at safety and security in a very new paradigm where they're really having to treat safety and security as an enterprise application. And they're also wanting to integrate this video with IoT data. They're wanting to apply analytics to make better decisions, real-time decisions. And this is happening across all of our customer segments. All of our customers are dealing with this challenge. And it's a real challenge that we have right now.
A few months ago, Dell Technologies launched the Dell Technologies IoT solution for surveillance. And you've told me that this solution can handle some enormous use cases. I believe you've got one customer with over 250,000 cameras and another who is dealing with 120 petabytes of video storage. That is an enormous amount of cameras and data. How has this solution changed from the time that you've launched it?
We started with those complex customers at that size range because those customers have the most amount of challenges in deploying that density of cameras and that quantity of storage. But we didn't want to stop there. We wanted to bring that same value proposition down to much smaller systems where customers still have complexities in deployment, ongoing management, and lifecycle management of all of that video data for not just 10 days, not just 30 days, in a lot of cases, years. So we wanted to make it easier, more scalable, and more cost-effective for our customers to deploy surveillance technology and storage at scale.
Excellent. All right. And who would benefit most from this type of solution?
One of the great things about surveillance and safety and security data is that it affects everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a hospital, a school, a stadium, a city, an enterprise customer. Surveillance is one of those technologies that is a horizontal use case. So we built a solution to really scale and address problems regardless of the customer type, but really where customers need a very supportable, scalable, secure solution to deploy and manage surveillance at scale.
Great. So Ken, where can folks go to learn more about Dell Technologies and the IoT solution for surveillance?
Thanks, Stacey. Appreciate the time. Customers and partners can go find more information on this solution and other IoT solutions we're bringing to market at delltechnologies.com/IoT.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Internet of Things podcast. This is your host, Stacey Higginbotham, and today's guest is Jerome Grackle, who is the CEO of Eve Systems. Hello, Jerome. How are you today?
Fine, doing great.
Excellent. All right. You guys have been around for a really long time in the smart home market. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about Eve's origins in the smart home?
So Eve has been created 20 years ago in Los Gatos in California, and we pivoted our business 3 times. Our last move was to sell our gaming activity in July last year to Corsair, and since then we are fully dedicated to connected home device under the Apple HomeKit platform.
Okay, well, let's start there because it feels like HomeKit held so much promise early on. It feels like actually the entire smart home ecosystem held so much promise early on in the 2013, 2014 timeframe. And then feels like things have stalled a little bit, not just in the overall home market, but also with Apple's HomeKit. Can you give us a sense of where you think the market is today?
So for sure, It's true that everyone was thinking to enter the smart home market with very, very big promise. However, the penetration of smart home, especially in Europe, is quite slow. And this is mostly due of education the consumer on what are the benefits that give connected home product. And it's not much related to the technology or which platform are you using, but about which use case are you delivering to the consumer. And we think that HomeKit has great benefit for the consumer because it solves three major problems. The first one is it gives you the possibility to have a seamless installation of the product. All our products are installed in one click. You just take a picture of the Apple HomeKit QR code on the product, and you can control the product from your iPhone, your iPad, or your iWatch. You do not need to install any home hub to your Wi-Fi router or any gateway or any specific app on your phone, as the Apple Home app is on all iPhone already installed. So in 1 second, you are installing and controlling our product. And this is a key benefit that we are giving to our users.
Okay, and that makes sense. It feels like the connectivity part has really changed a little bit over the years. Apple did make this seamless, but Amazon and Google are now working with kind of seamless Wi-Fi efforts. What else has Apple done to make this smart home effort easier?
In fact, a lot of things has been done, but a little things has been communicated to the consumer. So across the world, all the Apple benefit, especially in terms of security and data privacy, need to be promoted in a much more stronger way. This is the challenge that we are today. So today there is not any more technological challenge, but is more promotional challenge to convey those key benefits of the Apple HomeKit platform to the user on a global scale, and not only to the few Apple fans who are knowing what is about Apple HomeKit.
Okay. Ease of use, ease of installation, and privacy. Are those the three things that have made kind of Apple's ecosystem a little bit different?
It is one of the things, and also we should not forget the security aspect, because with Apple HomeKit, you are really a full data encryption between your product and the phone and the Apple infrastructure. For instance, with Eve product, we don't have any cloud infrastructure. Our product we are delivering connected home experience, just only have local product and an iPhone. There is no cloud infrastructure in between. So what does it mean? It means that all the data are staying inside the product. So what's happened at home, stay at home. And we can deliver that privacy message to the user at a global scale.
That's interesting. So how do you guys work with some of the integrations that you have? I know that you have an integration with Hue bulbs, for example, or maybe how does that privacy stance interfere with your ability to do some of the integrations?
So we are integrating other devices through the Apple HomeKit infrastructure. So it is related with the Home Hub, the HomePod, the Apple TV, or the iPad, and behind it, the Apple infrastructure. But in any way, there is no own Eve system infrastructure related to make integration happen between third-party products.
Okay, so with HomeKit, it felt like Apple came a little bit late, which is fine. That's totally what Apple does. But then it also felt like with the rise of the Amazon Echo and Google Home Assistant markets, that Apple threw kind of the HomePod over the fence and then left it there. And it feels like we haven't seen a lot from Apple on the smart home front. Are you disappointed in that?
A little bit some disappointment, but also what we see is that Alexa, Amazon Alexa, or Google Home have driving connected home product thanks to voice control. And what we see here in Europe country, the adoption of Siri as a voice control to control connected home device, the penetration is quite low. People are not using as much Siri as we can see in the US market here in Europe. And this is one of the challenges that we have is, yes, with Apple HomeKit, you have voice control, but in fact, people in Europe are not using it.
And is there a reason for that?
I think there is some language reason. If you speak to me English, I live in the US during 10 years, but I still speak English like this. So I think you have some difficulty to be understood in your local language.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, a lack of accent support.
Yes.
It's tough. You know, you're out there, you're speaking a second language, possibly a third, and then you get dinged for it. Do you feel, because there is a lot of communication with Apple when you're producing HomeKit products, they have a very rigorous set of rules associated with that. Is Apple still serious about the smart home?
We think so. If I look about how many Apple have product inside the home, going from the iPhone, the MacBook Pro, the iPad, the iWatch, the HomePod, the Apple TV, we think that Apple have really a strong ecosystem inside the home. And I believe that, we strongly believe that Apple takes the home seriously. Today, it is true, they are facing some competition with Amazon Alexa and Google Home that seems to be in front of this race. But in the long run, we are still feeling that Apple has a clear leading position in this market. And this is why we are going at work every day and try to develop Apple HomeKit exclusive product.
It's true. You guys are consistently putting out new stuff, which I really appreciate. And I'm sure all the people out there who are HomeKit enabled appreciate as well. We get a lot of requests for HomeKit capable products. With that in mind, I actually saw you guys had a wonderful blog post probably about a year and a half ago about creating a HomeKit capable security system. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about some of the products that could be used to do that, because there are lots of consumers out there who are like, ooh, I really want to do this security thing, but I don't know if I want another hub or a bunch of other devices. Can you talk briefly about that?
Yes, so in our portfolio, it is true that we see that the smart home market is driven by the security application. And on our side, we never want to be a number 2 and number 3 inside a category. And what we see regarding the IP camera, it was an indoor IP camera. The offer were already quite large, so we decided to do not invest in this category, but for sure we are looking how to go more strongly inside the security aspect and leveraging on the sensor that you currently have, which are some door and window sensor, some smoke sensor, or a movement detector.
And it's easy to set all that up as a security system using, is it conditions or routines? What is it that Apple calls their amalgamation of smart home products together?
I think if you live in an apartment, the most easy way to set up a security system is to put a door and window sensor on your front door, because the statistics show that if you live in a building, if there is a break-in, they will enter through the main door entrance. And just by putting a door and window sensor, which is very affordable at $49, you get an alert thanks to Apple HomeKit once a door is open. Your main entrance door is open.
Got it. And let's talk about sensors for a moment, because you guys have been developing Bluetooth-based sensors because Apple supports only Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And this has been a tough area to find products in. So I'm very curious, what are the challenges associated with a Bluetooth sensor? I assume it's battery life, but I don't know.
First of all, to adopt our wireless technology, there is many radio protocol available. And what drives us in our decision was which protocol are inside the smartphone. And inside the smartphone, you have only two protocols, the Bluetooth one and the Wi-Fi. And as many of our sensors are running currently and are battery powered, it was obvious for us that Wi-Fi was not a possibility because it will drain too fast the battery. We adopted Bluetooth, knowing that in Bluetooth you had one drawback, which is the range of the wireless protocol, and we are working on it in order to extend this range. This is the first thing. And the second, what we see is that as sensors are working on Bluetooth, and we see that our consumers are buying one sensor and many times 2 or 3 other products in a little period of time, it proves that the range is not an issue for them.
Oh, that's good. Yes, because I will say that I lived in a strange house, but I always had a lot of problems. I'm like, oh, I want to turn off my lights upstairs, but I'm downstairs and the range is terrible. What about something like Bluetooth mesh? Now that that technology has come out and is certified, is that something that you're looking at?
Of course, we have to investigate all upgrade of Bluetooth, and we are assessing such technology.
And do you have a sense of the drawbacks? I've been told that Bluetooth mesh does have higher battery consumptions just based on the fact that it's waking up a little bit more often.
This is correct. However, as we are a software company, is how can we develop a software in order to avoid the drawback on the battery lifetime of any improvement on the Bluetooth range.
And as a connected device company, are you predominantly making your money just from the sale of hardware, or are you looking at other options? I know a lot of smart home companies, they're like, oh, we're going to sell the hardware, but we're also going to, magically build a data business or create a subscription model. So how do you think about being in the business of operating something that is going to exist in a consumer's life for maybe 5 years or have to support it for that life cycle?
We are clearly focusing on the hardware. And I think it's a question of focus because, as mentioned before, many players are disappointed with the result of the smart home in terms of revenue, in terms of business. And once they try the hardware, they try, it does not work so well. Let's improve my business model and move into a data model or a subscription model. And the data model, very few players are successful so far. On our side, we are here for the long run. And as I told you before, we think that Apple HomeKit will be a winner on the long run. And the data privacy aspect, even if today is not a topic for many consumers, it will be one in the long run. And we are preparing this long-term aspect. And by developing, creating beautifully designed product and providing a seamless user experience to our consumer, this is where is our focus.
And I'm going to assume that that's why you feel like you can compete with some of the mega players that it looked like are now in the smart home. So you've got Amazon, who's purchased Ring, has purchased Eero. You've got Google, which has their Nest line of products. And there are tons of others. There's Arlo, there's Netatmo over in Europe that are all trying to compete against these guys, even though they're smaller. How do you view that competition and what differentiates you guys?
If I look about some of the figures that are official about all the players that you have mentioned and the number of products sold, I can share it. We have sold so far 750,000 connected products. That means we will reach 1 million products by end of 2019. And in Europe, very few players were able to deliver that. Whereas for us, as mentioned before, very few months ago, our focus was the gaming. It's only since July last year that we are dedicated as resource to the connected home. And why we are able to have such product and such numbers and such growth is because we are focusing on the Apple ecosystem. And today it is true, we are mostly people who buy our product are Apple fans, and they don't have only one Eve product in their house, but in average, they have 4 products of our own product. And the repurchasing rate is very high. That's why I think there is a lot of consumer sensitive to please deliver me a seamless experience with data security and data privacy, and these benefits resonate to them. And we are seeing it as we are growing, and we think we are growing faster than many other players.
Excellent. So I have to ask, because I live in a mixed household, I have an Android Apple home. What is your advice for people who want to use your products and Apple HomeKit in a mixed household?
So we have developed a product 2 years ago, which is the Eve button, who gives you the opportunity to control any Eve product, especially if you are an Android user.
Okay, so I get a button. All right, it is a beautiful button, I will say. Okay, Jerome, thank you so much for coming on the show. I feel like I've learned a lot about Apple. I won't count them out just yet, and I am excited about better Bluetooth sensors coming hopefully down the pike. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for this week. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, if you'd like more IoT news, sign up for my newsletter at stacyoniot.com. We'll see you next week.